The issue of racial abuse at Buckingham Palace came up on Question Time this week, and a GB News host was on hand to minimise what happened.
I think it was definitely a very clumsy and surprisingly crass comment for someone who spent their life doing these sort of events. But on the other hand, I think it's a bit sad that we live in a sort of society where an 83-year-old woman with 60 years of public service behind her can just be sort of cancelled for one misspeak. And my heart really goes out to Ngozi Fulani because it sounds like a horrible experience and I can't quite understand how it happened like that. But I think that everyone who knows Lady Susan Hussey says that she's not in any way racist. She's a very kind-hearted woman, and the rest of her life is going to be blighted by that incident. So I worry a bit about the sort of cancel culture angle of this whole story, but that's not in any way to undermine what Ngozi Fulani went through, because it does sound like a horrible experience.
Now, let's just remind ourselves of what Lady Hussey, who is not, according to her friends and according to Olivia Hutley, not in any way racist. Let's see what she said, which was so crass and clumsy. So this is the account of Ngozi Fulani, which, as far as I can tell, no one from the palace has sort of denied or pushed back against. Hussey says, "Where are you from?" Fulani says, "Sister space." Hussey, "No, where do you come from?" Fulani, "We're based in Hackney." "No, what part of Africa are you from?" Fulani, "I don't know. They didn't leave any records." Hussey, "Well, you must know where you're from. I spent time in France. Where are you from?" Fulani, "Here, UK." Hussey, "No, but what nationality are you?" Fulani, "I am born here and am British." Then Hussey says, "No, but where do you really come from? Where do your people come from?" Fulani, "My people, lady, what is this?" Hussey, "Oh, I can see I'm going to have a challenge getting you to say where you're from. When did you first come here?" Fulani, "Lady, I am a British national. My parents came here in the 50s when..." And then Hussey says, "Oh, I knew we'd get there in the end. You're Caribbean." And then Fulani says, "No, I am of African heritage, Caribbean descent and British nationality." Hussey says, "Oh, so you're from..." Now, that's the account of Ngozi Fulani. There were 3 witnesses, or 2 other witnesses, sorry. They've all sort of backed that up. And as I say, I don't think anyone from the palace seems to be pushing back against that. So to call that a misspeak from someone who couldn't possibly be racist seems to me a little bit naive, to say the least. I mean, that's probably being a bit too kind, isn't it? On the bright side, not many in the Question Time audience agreed with Olivia Hutley, and the one guy who spoke in her favour didn't do her any favours.
Clearly, no one is saying that what Susan Hussey said was in any way acceptable, but no one's taking the view that you're taking, which is that maybe she shouldn't have gone. Is anyone in the audience agreeing with Olivia about that? OK, let's just hear from a couple of you. Yes, the man there in the blue sweater, and then I'll come to you.
Yeah, I agree entirely there, that I don't think it's taken as a racist comment. Many years ago...
You don't think it should be taken as a racist comment?
No, I don't.
Well, even though the woman hearing it very much took it like that?
Yes, and that's one side of the story, Fiona. Many years ago, I was in a room when King Charles came in, and I was wearing a different regimental stable belt from everybody else because I was attached to the regiment. He made a beeline for me to ask why I was different. I took that as a compliment, that he had the time to... It was inquisitive. It's not necessarily a racist comment.
Do you not think it's a very different situation when you're white? Well, when you're being talked to by a white person, seniority. Savannah, do you want to?
As someone who has continuously had that question throughout my existence, where are you really from? That question comes continuously. It doesn't change. It's quite often the same question. And I'll be honest with you, I've got to a point now where I've done a DNA test so that I can actually just go, here you go, it's on my phone, this is where I'm from. Because and that's my default position, because I'm bored of that conversation. I am bored of that conversation. I'm sick to death of having to justify who I am or where I come from. Because ultimately what this person is telling me is that somehow my existence in their presence is perhaps unbearable. And that's what this comes down to. And it is about people's feelings but also this is to do with society and who we want to be. This is not the kind of society that we want to live in. And clearly the palace, is considered that position.
All right. OK, briefly, because I'm going to move on.
We're saying that the palace is racist. It's not in any way racist. Never has been. You're hearing one side of a story, one side of a conversation. If it was a serious racial abuse, the first step should have been to go to the palace, not to go onto Twitter and
Well,
put it round the world.
I'll just say, because I'm going to move on in a minute, but the palace has accepted that these comments were unacceptable. They're in no doubt about that.
What would
and
you...
they have absolutely not defended Susan Hussey, and they've said that what Ngozi Fulani went through was completely unacceptable.
Absolutely.
And that racism was unacceptable. They're not sharing your view.
I have no qualms with that, but I don't think it was intentional racism.
OK. Well, look, I'll leave you with your thought. There's not a lot of agreement, I have to say, here in the room with you, but thank you for putting your point. We want to hear all points of view.
Ash, what do you think Olivia Utley was thinking when the only person in the audience to speak up in her favour was that guy?
He sort of moved into the space that she created, because when you go, oh, it's so sad, and, you know, I don't think she'd have meant it like that, and what a shame it is that 60 years of public service is now tarnished, but, you know, I do really feel for Ngozi Fulani. That's actually just a more dishonest version of what the guy in the aubergine top was saying. And I mean, this is also why I hate stuff like this so much, because it is an invitation, seemingly, for white nonsense. You know, you suddenly have a load of people opining on an experience that they simply would never have had, or it's something which is then taken in abstraction to the point where it's absurd. So it becomes a conversation about, well, is it always racist to ask where you're from? I rather like it when someone notices, or, you know, well, couldn't you possibly mean it in a nice way, and blah, blah, blah. And it becomes abstracted from the thing that actually happened, which is, first, Lady Susan Hussey physically moved Ngozi Fulani's hair away to see her name tag, which is incredibly entitled and quite dehumanizing, right? If I've not met someone before, I'm not going to reach over and touch their hair so I can see their name tag. I'd go, oh, what's your name? Or going, oh, tell you what, could you just move that so I could see how it's spelled? I wouldn't reach out and touch them. And the repeated line of questioning and the refusal to accept an answer of I'm British tells you that actually it is entirely shaped by race and racism. It's saying account for your melanin, account for your racial difference in this space, because if you don't, I will keep badgering you and keep questioning you. Oh, well, I see I'm going to have a challenge here. Well, actually, you shouldn't have a challenge, because if you have one of these non-jobs where all you do is glad hand all day, you should be able to take a hint and move on. But look, there might be some people watching going, well, is it racist to ask someone where they're from? Within a context of a reciprocal and mutually interested conversation, no, it's not. I have had loads of really nice conversations with white people where I'm asking them about what their heritage and background is as well. And if it's within a context of mutual interest and you're both talking about families, that can be something which is really nice, really lovely, and it helps you get to a point of understanding each other better and understanding the context that you're in. But if what you do is you go up to anyone who's got even the slightest hint of a tin and you're effectively going, why are you brown? Because that's what the where are you really from question is. It's why are you brown? Then yeah, it is racist. And just because you didn't use any of the slurs doesn't mean you're off the hook.
I thought that it was so disingenuous, wasn't it? That intervention from Olivia Utley, because she says sort of like, I don't actually see how this could have happened, especially given that she's done 60 years of public service. So how could she possibly have been so racist? Where has she done these 60 years of public service? In Buckingham Palace, in the heart of British aristocracy. These people were the head of the British Empire, right? So, I don't see how she could possibly have had beliefs which weren't wholly progressive. Oh, it's not much of a surprise, actually, is it? I wish she'd got challenged. Do you think what happened was racist? Because this is another unfortunate. What was said was unfortunate. It was clumsy. There were misspeaks. If someone is interrogating someone about where they're from and not accepting their answer when they say, I'm from London, I'm from the UK, that is racist, right? Now, if you got an 83-year-old who says, oh, where are you from, to someone, and then the person says, oh, London, they say, oh, okay, fine, sorry, I didn't mean to ask the question because you're not, you can see how that's inappropriate, unfortunate, maybe like a racist microaggression, but it doesn't scream to me they're a racist person. But if you've got someone who's 83 who's interrogating someone about where they're from and not accepting the answer they give, then that is racism. And I think it's important that we can say what that is. I mean, it seems to me a little bit bizarre that the BBC got on someone from GB News, I think, specifically to make that point, even though clearly the audience showed that it's not a particularly representative position.